with Sherry is a bariatric podcast talking about weight loss surgery. I am not a licensed professional. Any views and or opinions expressed in the show are those of the speakers and do not reflect the bariatric community as a whole. Always reach out to a professional with any medical issues you are experiencing. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unzipped with Sherry, with yours truly. Obviously, I'm Sherry. I'm really excited this week because we are going to be having Misty on the show. She lives in Canada. She has the most amazing heart and spirit, and she's one of those people that I resonated with because she's an open book. She's always been very open and honest about her journey, her weight loss, her experiences, her life. And I think that she's going to be a really great resource if somebody's ever considering bariatric surgery or is struggling at any part in their journey. And the one thing that I love her is she's so about women empowerment and helping each other up and lifting each other up. And so there's so many things that we're going to get to today. We're probably not going to get to everything. So she's obviously going to have to come back again. I haven't even asked her yet. We're just going to assume that she's going to do it because I'm really good at bullying people into doing that in a positive way. Obviously not in a negative. We don't negatively bully. We positively encourage people to do stuff. So on that note, Misty, I hope you're as excited as I am because we're about to get unzipped. We all have a story on how we got here, right? So for me, I used to be over 350 pounds. Until one day, I made the single decision that I wanted change. Weight loss surgery has saved my life, and now I am here for you. I want to hear your story. You know, the one that happened during that before and after picture. It's time to unzip. What's your story?
Hi!
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. First and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I feel kind of selfishly glad that I have a show because it gave me an opportunity to hang out with you one-on-one, even though we couldn't physically be together. So I got you to all of myself for a couple hours last time. And so even though I'm willing to share Misty with all of you this week, with all of you guys in the comments, just know I got her to myself a couple weeks ago, and it was awesome. But obviously, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I really can't thank you enough. And we've already been getting comments in here. People are watching. People are excited. Like the support is just absolutely amazing. So obviously, there's a lot of people here who know that Misty is. For people who are listening at home later or watching us live, and you're like, who is this beautiful beacon of beauty before me? Who is Misty? So why don't we get into it a little bit? And let's talk a little bit about your origin story, where it all began.
Okay. Well, I'm Italian and English. I overweight my entire life. And from a super early age, I learned that you show love with food. You celebrate, you have family over on a Thursday night. You put out a huge display of food and fellowship around the table. So I learned very young that food was the key to show love.
And that was something that you and I bonded over because we both come from Italian families. And when you have Italian families, you don't just have chicken and rice for dinner. You have courses and you have pastas and you have everything involves cheese, which I'm not complaining about because I love cheese, but it's a lot of cheese and it's a lot of fried. It's a lot of carbs, and you eat for everything.
Yeah.
Every celebration is celebrated with giant plates of food. Every tragedy and funeral is celebrated with giant plates of food. Oh, you got a new haircut? Oh yeah, let's go out and get something to eat and celebrate. Like everything is food. And so did your parents have an issue with weight as well?
Oh yeah. My whole family suffered with obesity. They all do. So it was very normal to be with family and for everybody to have some kind of weight issues. Very common.
And at what, I'm actually curious. I don't think I've asked you this. At what age did you kind of like have the realization that you are slightly bigger than other people? Like when you're in school and stuff, that you look slightly different.
I was in fourth grade when my doctor put me on my first diet.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like
I was,
8? 7, 8?
yeah. Yeah. So, and I think I had to lose like 16 pounds. So I wasn't incredibly overweight, but I was always the chunkiest kid in class. I
Right.
was really active when I was young. Was always outside playing with the boys, doing sports and stuff when I was like a young, like elementary school. But I was always the biggest in my friend group. I was always the biggest one.
And were you lucky enough to have friends that were supported, or were you ever picked on?
I had great friends, but I was always picked on too. There's always, those bullies in school.
Right.
And I was always, because I was, as I got older and kept gaining weight with each grade that I went in, I quickly became the biggest in that grade. And I was the heaviest in that grade. And soon I was the heaviest in my elementary school and my junior high. I was in a very small group of people who were really overweight. And I usually topped those charts.
And like as a family, did you guys ever like collectively try to do things together? Or was there ever a time in the family where somebody was like motivated to want to do something different and try to encourage you? Or was it just like this trajectory you guys were all on together?
We were all on together.
Mm.
Like my father was Italian and his mom, it's very common to have grandparents live with you. So when I was little, my grandmother moved in with us and she was with us until I was like 17 when she passed away. So I grew up and my grandmother was one of 8 sisters of 8. So huge, big Italian family.
Yes.
So again, everybody, there was always food. You celebrated, grieved, oh my God, you're amazing. You got an A. Oh my God, let's
Hmm.
cake.
Yep. Having pasta for everything. Because
Yeah.
you know what's interesting, and I'm curious with your family, because both my parents are Italian, but they both families were vastly different. Now, obviously, the food thing, 100% to a T, both sides of the family.
Yeah.
But one side of my family was very into, I don't like using the word vanity, but it was like you need to present yourself a certain way. And if you were a lady, you need to put makeup on, you have to be presentable. And I was a tomboy. So like I would get criticized a lot by one side of the family because like, don't you want a boyfriend? You need to put on a face, because they were taught at the young age that that's what you do. But on the other side of the family, they didn't put makeup on. It was like the natural beauty. And it was, it was a lot more tomboyish in general. And I remember I would struggle with that, but appearance was very important on one side of the family. And even though my family was also overweight and always dealt with weight issues, it was always it was like always noticeable that we all had weight issues, and it was like, oh, I feel so fat, and oh this and oh that, and it just constantly created the stigma of like how you look and how you present. It's like, well, now I'm fat and I'm not wearing makeup. Oh, I'm screwed for the rest of my life. No boy's ever gonna like me because that's what I'm being portrayed. But it sounds like in your case, like nobody was really judgy towards each other. That was just your way of life.
It really was. I mean, for some people in the family, there was always coming from like my mom is English, but she has very small family, and I never really grew up with any of them. So it was all my Italian family. And there was always like I have a younger brother. So him and my father were the praised ones. My mom and
Of
I were
course.
like, nah, nah. So that's really how I grew up, feeling like I'm never good enough. And um, and not so much an appearance like hair, makeup, but I really struggled with the outward appearance of what our family looks like. Like, are we a happy family? Do we look like we have it all together?
It's about
That's
appearances.
yeah, that's the
Yes.
appearance that I was kind of forced into. My father and I would have a huge fight going to church, but the minute we would step foot out of the car, big smiles, happy
Hmm.
family, we're here, we love Jesus, life is great.
Right.
That was the appearance that I had to kind of follow.
Isn't that crazy? I still deal with that today. That's
Yeah.
insane. Because you're not allowed to talk about issues. You're not allowed to talk about anything.
No,
No, nobody can ever know that there's any disruption in anything. And
no,
so, and that's fascinating. I've told you outside of this, you and I have very parallel lives in a lot of different ways.
yeah.
And you and I haven't even talked about this right now. It's very, very fascinating because when you're not allowed to talk about stuff, if anybody's upset or has any kind of a conflict, you're not allowed to address it. So you're swallowing everything. You're metaphorically swallowing everything and swallowing everything. And then we wonder why the weight is not coming off no matter what we're doing.
Oh my God, 100%. And so I learned from a very early age when I was still developing those skills that you don't talk about stuff. So
Yeah.
because of that, I ended up dealing with some childhood trauma that I had to keep to myself because, oh my God, you can't let people in the church know that
Right.
something's wrong. You can't let, the elders of the church or anybody in the family, you just don't talk about it. So you just keep that quiet.
Because
So
you can't tarnish the family name. You
no,
can't tarnish the image of the family
no,
because the cousins over here, over there, or whatever, they could never know. So you keep your mouth
exactly.
shut.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then, so what was it like? Because I think that you had said that, like, when you were entering like your preteens, that you would try to make little attempts here and there um, to lose weight. What were some of the things back then that was like the big deal or the newest fad or whatever?
Um, when I was young, like, preteen, early teens, it was just, um, back then it was like, I'm just not going to eat. I'm just going to starve myself. I just won't eat. But then coming from, again, having a food addiction that started at an early age, that doesn't really work.
No.
So when you try to be like, okay, I'm just not going to eat, or you like will have a few bites, and when pasta is on the meal plan 3 nights a week, it's kind of hard.
Right.
But so from an early age, I had started to sneak food because I didn't. So in my young mind, it was like, well, if they can't see me eating it, it doesn't really count. So I'm
Yes.
not going to gain weight. Yeah.
I used to sneak food into my room all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, and it sucks because especially if you've had any kind of issues when you're younger, any kind of trauma and you can't talk to about, like, you find yourself isolated a lot more often
Yeah.
and confined into your room. And then, like, for me, I would listen to a lot of like love songs on the radio in junior high and high school, and then I would like eat like cookie dough that never made it into the oven, it just made it into my mouth.
Yeah.
And then I would just, because you had no one to talk to or whatever, and it sucks. But I feel like those are the kind of things that as we get older and we can learn from how things were done back then, and we realize, no, this is not acceptable. And we're going to get into it later because I'm curious to see how like your mindset is shifted in like the family dynamic and stuff like that. But I'm kind of curious to know, like, because you decided not to have surgery until a couple years ago. So filling in the gaps between like when you decided to have the surgery and leading up to that, what was like your average day like? Like, what was life like for you?
Well, for years, my doctors were like, Misty, you need to have this surgery. And I was like, nope, I can't deal with the excess skin, hair loss. Like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. That was my excuse because I was afraid. That
Right.
those were my go-to excuses. But when I finally decided that, okay, like, Misty, you need to friggin' shape up here. Like, I need to make a huge change. I in my townhouse, I have like, I don't know, 10 stairs to go upstairs, and I would get up 5 stairs and have to stop because I was out of breath. Like, that's no way to live. And with each pound, like when you get to a certain point, I was almost 450 pounds and I'm 5'4". So my every joint in my body
Yeah.
ached every day without even having to move. My body hurt. And everything was a limitation and a restriction. And I couldn't do anything without suffering. And it was no quality of life. So I finally had to decide that, you know what, I need to make shit happen.
And so what was it like? What was it? Now, what I'm interested for you, because we've had Mike on the show a couple weeks ago, and obviously Canada is different than the US. So I'm curious, like, for you, what was the process like for like when you made the decision? All right, doc, I'm going to listen to you this time. Let's just freaking do this. Question one is, how long did it take from the time you made that consultation to the point you had the surgery?
So December of 2019 is when I had my orientation. So
Okay.
that's when you go, you learn about, the surgical part of it, or there's like a medical part where you go through like a weight loss program without the surgery. I obviously decided that I wanted the surgical route. So that was December of 2019, and my gastric sleeve was November of 2020.
Which I'm just now realizing, because if you had that first appointment in November, you said December of 2019, and then obviously shit went down, and a few months later,
Yeah.
did something that had a big to do with why it took so long?
Oh yeah, it was definitely pushed back because all non-elective like surgeries were canceled. So there was a little delay, but 11 months it wasn't bad because here in Canada, for one thing, I don't get to choose which surgery I have. So
Really?
yeah, it's not up. They will take what we want into consideration, but because it's covered, it's not really up to us. So I
Okay.
went in wanting bypass. I did all my research on bypass. I figured bypass was the best thing for me, but my surgical team said, no, you have a lot of weight to lose. You will be getting the sleeve because once, if that goes well and you're successful, you will get a phase 2 with the duodenal switch. Um, and I was not happy with that. But then there's all kinds. So in those 11 months, you meet with internists and you go for blood work and you have this test and that test and you meet with the psychiatrist and lots of appointments. A lot of them ended up being over the phone because of everything that had gone down
Right.
in 2020. Um, but yeah,
And I'm
everything.
curious, I'm just genuinely curious. Everything that was happening with the pandemic and everything, did that um, hinder your decision to have the surgery or anything like that?
Um, I was cautious because we were all still learning what was happening with the whole world, and
Right.
the last thing anybody wanted to do was go into the hospital.
Right.
So I was definitely cautious, but at the same time, once I really started the ball rolling with this whole journey, I was like, okay, we have to do this. Like I was desperate at that point because I was looking forward to it. I was looking
Right.
forward to the possibility of what life could be. So that was I was leaning more towards that. So that's what I kind of used to be like, well, I have to do this. So
And what's funny is I was kind of the same way. Like I pushed it off for so many years. I would never even consider it, was not even an option
mhm.
or a consideration. And then when I finally made the decision that I was going to do this, and then I was told that I couldn't because of insurance reasons, like there was all these like
Mhm.
little loopholes you had to jump through or whatever, I became freaking impatient. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Like I didn't even want this before. And now once that the light bulb has switched and I'm like in the mindset, like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I was like, I want it now. Just get it over with.
Yeah.
I didn't want to wait. Oh,
Well,
hey,
and I know I'm seeing all the comments here. Um, when I decided to have the surgery, then I was like on social media trying to find people like me because so what really helped kind of getting me to the point of my first surgery was seeing the transformations. That's what I was like, it's worth it. Like it can be done
right.
because as I'm sure all of us feel at one point, they're like, well, what if I fail? Like, what if I can't do this? And so I needed that visual reassurance from complete strangers who are like me, who have that much weight to lose. Um, I need to see that they did it. So,
And I'm curious. So up in Canada, do they work with you and kind of prepare you for like the different things that can happen post op, whether it's like mental health or the hair loss or any kind of potential issues or stuff
yeah.
that you can deal with?
They briefly, they're like, there's a few like orientations and that kind of stuff. There's nowhere near the amount of support that I think is needed, especially around the mental health part. Like I had a few appointments with like a therapist, kind of just making sure that I was ready for the surgery. So it's like the mindset of getting ready for surgery. And I
Hmm.
talk a little about after, but that's what's needed, I think, because somebody like me in the position that I'm in now, even though I still have weight to lose, I'm really struggling with my body image and body dysmorphia and what I see in the mirror. And there is no support that they offer.
Really?
So I think that's really lacking, and that's definitely needed. Yeah.
And I'm curious for because we don't talk a lot about it enough on the show. We do talk. Almost every single person I've had on the show has all agreed that they were not mentally prepared enough
Yeah.
for the aftermath of having the surgery. Because everyone, like, again, we look at the transformation videos, and you're like, oh yeah, whatever comes with that for me to get that result, like, let's go for it. But then you don't realize when you're in the trenches of it,
Yeah.
it's a lot much different of a feeling than when you're outside of it. And so if you're dealing with body dysmorphia right now, like what specifically are things that you are struggling with?
So I have lost um 190 pounds. So I'm really close to hitting 200 pounds lost, which is my head knows that's fucking amazing.
Fucking amazing.
When I look at myself in the mirror and I see like all the excess skin that I have, and I still have, say 70 pounds to lose ish. I have a hard time seeing what I look like now. So when I look in the mirror, I still see that 450-pound
Mm,
woman with the huge beer keg belly that I had.
right.
Um, when I see a picture of what I was then, and if I put a picture of what I am now, I can see a difference. But if I look at myself in real time in the mirror, I can't see it.
I think that's such a really common problem to have. And I think, especially in the first couple years of it, I think that your body is changing so quickly
Mhm.
that I feel like our brains can't even catch up to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, um, like people who get really lightheaded a few months post-op, and then you find out it's because your blood pressure is normalizing and your body's like going to stable. And then you find out like with the hair loss part, and it's like it's all
Mhm.
part of this little thing because your body has to catch up to the changes. And I feel like there's all these different elements, and I feel like that was one of them because I was the same way. Like I could not see a difference in the mirror. I kept looking in the mirror, and she was 350 pounds. And then Eric, it wasn't that he would get frustrated, but he's like, how are you not seeing this? And like it wasn't until he would hold up like two pictures side by side,
Yeah.
and then I'm I like I can see that now, but like I'm like you, like when you're walking around every single day, you don't see it. But I think oftentimes out when you're out and about, you're not looking at yourself 24/7. I mean, some people out there do, like every single mirror, like I'm sure. But on average, the only time we're really seeing ourselves in the mirror is like in the morning if we're getting ready, maybe at night before we're done. And then other than that, that's it. So we're only getting like these small glimpses of ourselves. And so that's why I feel like there's I want to say outside bariatric, I feel like people don't understand. And
Mhm.
when we make those comments, I still feel fat or I still feel like I'm 300 pounds. I feel like the outside world gets frustrated. Like, ugh, yes, you're pretty, you're hot. Like, we'll give you the compliments that you're seeking. I'm like, it's not that we're seeking compliments.
Um,
You're seeing all of us in real time. We're not seeing us in real time. We're only catching these glimpses every single day. So
yeah.
you have to be patient for us to catch up to it. But I can tell you this, it does get better. You will see it.
That is good to know. I will often do like a fit check of the day video, and as much as like I have such great support on like TikTok, but I honestly do them for myself
Mm-hmm.
because I need to see that. Like it's like a little boost for myself, and I don't always feel confident, but sometimes it's like fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And on those days where I'm like, I think I look really cute today. So I'll do a video, but then, our minds go right to, oh my God, I just saw that jiggle. Like
Yep.
I just like for like a lot of people in the comments know I had a dance show a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
The pictures are amazing. The videos that people took are amazing. When I do a playback of those videos,
Yeah.
like when I turn around, I see all the leg jiggle, and that's what it's like there's arrows pointing to it. And
Right.
I think that's what everybody else is seeing too, because that's instantly what I see. Even though anybody else that I dance with, they are amazing, all different ages, all different sizes, all different backgrounds. They're absolutely amazing. And I can see that in them, but we have such a hard time seeing that in ourselves.
I agree. And I think because when you watch all those other people, different shapes and sizes, did you be like, oh my God, her right thigh jiggled really bad?
Yeah, I know. I
No,
don't even notice.
exactly. You're not
I'm
even
like,
thinking of it. But
Queen, you're amazing.
yeah, and he or she was probably thinking like, oh my God, right jiggle is like
Yeah,
worse than the left one or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, like I didn't even notice that because
yeah,
I was looking at the whole picture. And then like we're our own worst critics 100%. And I think one of the problems is when you're 450 pounds, you are overweight everywhere,
yeah,
everywhere. And then when you start losing weight and you're getting confidence and you have more energy, but as the weight is coming down, it's like specific areas feel more prominently noticeable. And I'm very vocal. I freaking hate my arms to a T. And one of the reasons is because you and I can relate. I love dancing. And I love,
yeah,
like when you swing your arm out for this long line and then the arm goes like with it. Like other people are not seeing that. Other people will say
yeah,
like that was beautiful or that was whatever. And I'm like, no, I all I saw was the arm the entire time and I couldn't get
yeah,
out of that. And I think it's because these are parts like especially when you have this weight loss surgery and we know it's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work to maintain it and to keep going. And when you're putting that much blood, sweat, and tears into it, you just want everything to be exactly how you want it. And the body
yeah.
obviously doesn't work that way. But I can tell you for the most part, I do think it gets easier. I can't tell you it 100% gets easier because full disclosure, I still struggle with that in certain areas. But I know that with my legs, for instance, now that we're doing challenges and I'm doing stuff that I haven't done in a really long time, I'm starting to see little changes that's enough for me to be like, I'm feeling better. Even
Yeah.
though I'm not at the destination, I feel a little bit better. And I think if we do things like that, that just make us feel better, then eventually we're going to care a lot less down the
Mhm.
road.
That's a super good point. I think for me, what really helps is what I'm capable of doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though I have this like inner contradictory thing happening in my head about how I think I look, I'm capable of so much more. Like, I couldn't walk up 5 stairs without having to stop.
Right.
But now look what I can do. So looking at that part of it is definitely encouraging and motivational for myself to see. To say I just freaking did that. I just danced in that show. I just went to the gym and hit a personal record, or like I did that stuff. So
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to remind themselves of exactly what you just said. Yes, you might be worried about a jiggle or whatever, but you just did something you did not do 3 years ago.
yeah,
And what you did took a lot more energy than walking up 5 single steps on a flight of stairs or whatever. And you just did that.
yeah,
And I have been better at trying to give my own self grace. Like I was doing a jive, which is extremely fast and it's kicks and it's
hmm,
everything. And when I watched the video back, all I saw was my arms and it drove me crazy. And it was Eric who's like, you just freaking did kicks and you just like did this, that, like, like it wasn't even bothering you. Like, that's what you need to be focusing on. And I'm like, and you're 100% right. But we're human and we can't,
yeah,
but I think if taking your advice, we need to remind ourselves of the bigger picture and not
hmm,
the isolated in don't focus on the arms or the legs, focus on the
yeah,
entire picture that has been evolving and like you're gonna keep going in the right direction.
absolutely.
I freaking love you, first of all.
Oh,
um
yeah.
but prior to surgery, because I wanted to ask this earlier, did you have any health issues? Like, did you have any issues with like diabetes or PCOS or anything like that pre-op?
I did, yeah. I diabetic, high blood pressure, PCOS, like there was always something. I felt like there was every time, I went to the doctor or had blood work done, there was something else that they were attacking on, a medication for. So definitely had a lot of stuff there.
And then how has that improved since?
Well, yeah, no, I'm not on any medication, like aside from like my bariatric vitamins and supplements,
Hmm.
and then my like my antidepressant that I've been on for years. Other than that, I'm not on anything else. Like no diabetes,
Good.
no high blood pressure. All of that is really cleared up.
Awesome. And then what made you decide to, because you ended up having, I don't know if it's duodenal or duodenal. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, people pronounce it differently. I say duodenal.
I'll accept that. So you ended up having the duodenal switch. I think it was like 18 months later or something like that.
So I had my gastric sleeve November of 2020, and I had my duodenal switch April of last year. So I'm just coming up to a year from my DS surgery.
Oh, almost to the day. It's like I planned this perfectly. I didn't.
You're good.
So what was the decision to make that switch?
To have the DS.
Yeah.
Um, well, so with having the sleeve, they prepared me for um because of my BMI, because of the um extreme weight that I had to lose,
Hmm.
chances were that I was not going to lose everything with the gastric sleeve. So that's why the DS is kind of a follow up. So
Okay.
I lost just over about 100 pounds with my sleeve, and then done. I stopped, stalled. I stayed within like that 5 pound range for 5 months, and I was like, oh my god. But
Really?
yeah, like, and with being like, getting more active, I dancing with, I stop like nothing. So, but I knew that my DS was coming. So there's a lot slower weight loss that comes with DS. You don't lose it as fast as the
Oh,
sleeve.
really?
Yeah. But I've started, once I had my DS, then the weight started coming off again. So
That's interesting. I'm telling you, if I was stalled for 5 months like that with that much to lose, I'd be fucking pissed.
yeah,
Fucking pissed. So let
yeah.
me
Like
ask.
I didn't gain. I really stayed within like a 5 pound range, but like seriously, 5 months. And I thought, like, our first reaction is, oh my god, I failed. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? And being honest, I didn't always get my water in. I didn't always do my vitamins. I suck at tracking for the most part.
Yeah.
So there was definitely things I could have done, but yeah, like there was no movement on the scale, and it was really defeating.
Well,
But
so let me ask you, because that was my biggest thing long before surgery, is whenever I did any kind of new program or fad or whatever, once I got stalled after a certain point, I threw in the towel. I'm like, what's the point?
yeah,
Why am I killing myself and depriving myself of everything if nothing's going to work? Even though you kind of had like an end date in sight, you knew that there was potentially going to be another surgery, but still nothing was guaranteed yet, nothing was scheduled yet or anything. How did you get in your head to not let yourself fall back into old patterns and just stay on the right path?
um, I I was determined. I had come so far, and even though losing 100 pounds is friggin' amazing.
Yes.
And with that 100 pound loss, I was able to do things that I couldn't do before. So, at 350 pounds, I still carried a lot of weight, but I can do so much more than I could at 450 pounds. So that was a motivator for me to keep going, because I struggle. I had, a lot of food aversions, and like my first few months after my sleeve surgery, it was hard. And I was determined to not let that be for nothing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so now that you're coming up under 1 year post duodenal switch, um, in reflecting on like the last couple of years, like how do you feel overall?
Um, I feel, you know what I say all the time, because we all get, oh my God, you cheated. You took the easy way out with surgery. And
Yeah.
I always rebuttal that with, I absolutely cheated. I cheated death because
Hmm.
I 100% believe that um, I wouldn't have lived to see 50 by the way I was going. I like how it kind of like the trajectory of weight gain for me, every decade I was putting on 100 pounds.
Right.
So, getting into my 40s, I was definitely um, kind of set to be in the 500s when I turned 50,
Mhm.
and my 5'4" frame couldn't handle that. So I
No.
know I would not have survived 100%.
100%. I fucking love that answer too. And I told you, you're like my spirit animal because that's the biggest thing that when people have said that I cheated, I've learned to tell them that I cheated death.
Yeah.
And now I love it if somebody in the gym or somebody, some swole dude tries to tell me that I cheated. I'm like, how is it any different than the supplements you're taking and you're using a machine to get bulky? Like whether you're using,
Yeah.
I'm using a tool, you're using a tool. What fucking difference does it make? Like how we get to the destination? These are just aids or guides or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
so because you're okay, so you were mentally preparing yourself for surgery by looking at a lot of transformation videos.
Mhm.
So do you think that that helps or hurts your journey seeing other people's transformations?
At the time, I really think it helped because I just needed to know that I wasn't alone. I needed to know that there was somebody just like me
Hmm.
who actually succeeded in getting to their goal weight, and honestly, it's not the number for me. It's being healthy and being
Yeah.
happy. And I needed to see that for myself. Hindsight now, I think that's where I started to really do the comparison of, which is really dangerous for all of us to do. Like, we all, even though we have the same surgery, every body loses
Mhm.
differently. So, there's people who lose 100 pounds, and then they're at their goal weight, and then they can
Right.
maintain, which 100-pound weight loss is ridiculous and amazing. But I can't compare myself to, okay, well, they're in a year, they lost their weight and they're done.
Right.
When I have, 240, for me to get to somewhere where I can maintain, I have to lose like 240 pounds.
Right.
So I'm not being fair to myself to compare somebody else who's busted their ass, because we're on totally different journeys.
And this is one of the things that I struggle with the most because I can say to an extent, I was very blessed in that there was no tiki taki when I had the surgery. So I didn't know about this
Mhm.
ginormous bariatric community that came in afterwards. And we had Facebook. And like, yeah, people would post transformation videos and stuff like that. But I don't think that we were comparing ourselves as much because it wasn't so prominently in our faces. But
Mhm.
I do get worried because even being this far out, I find myself being compared more now than I was doing it back then. And I think it's because it's these constant, you're scrolling a video and even on Instagram and you're seeing these transformations and you're like, man, like I'm not where she is. Or somebody might send me a message and be like, how long did it take you to lose the first 100? And I'm like, I kind of don't even want to tell you because then you're going to create this
Yeah.
expectation for yourself. And one, you might beat me to it, which is fantastic. Or two, if you don't, you're going to have this assumption that you failed in some way.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to draw. I try to draw the line where I want to be able to be helpful and share my experiences with people, but I want to share them as long as this is a very isolated journey,
Yeah.
that some of these things may or may not be applicable to you, but a lot of them are not going to be, and that's okay. But like, how do you go about, number one, how do you go about for yourself not being one to compare yourself to other people? And then two, how do you address people who are trying to compare themselves to you?
Well, I had to kind of force myself because I was going down that comparison road where, oh my God, she's doing great. She looks great. she doesn't have, my biggest one was, oh my God, she doesn't have as much excess skin as I do.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing wrong? And we always can turn it around to what we're doing wrong. And
Right.
so it's going back to you have to shift that mindset of, this is my journey. Like Sherry's journey is Sherry's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle's journey, Chandra, everybody in the chat who's a bariatric patient, that's your journey and this is mine. So I'm not doing myself any justice in comparing me to you or anybody else when nobody else has walked in my shoes and
Right.
nobody else has overcome what I've overcome. We've all overcome our own obstacles, and I have to remind myself that. So when I feel like I'm starting to compare with somebody on like TikTok, which I'm so grateful for the bariatric community, but if you're not going in that space preparing yourself to not compare, it's kind of a
Right.
slippery slope.
I also think it's good to note that I am extremely grateful for the bariatric community that I have found just in the last year.
Mhm.
And I do love getting the support, but then at the same time, however, I feel like we still have to resolve things inside of us, just as importantly. It's nice to have somebody who can relate to you with body dysmorphia, or who can relate to you because they had a binge day or whatever. And it's great to have that connection with each other, that at least somebody knows that you're not alone and that you guys are in this together. But as equally as important as it is to have that support, what are you doing about it to fix it, or to prevent it from not happening again? And I'm just curious because, like, for instance, in your case, you grew up in a household where food was celebrated. It was on platters. It was like everything was surrounded about food. And now you're not going to just disown your entire family now that you have surgery and you can't have all this food. Like, how do you personally find ways to adapt, knowing you're going to walk into a house and it's going to be wall-to-wall food?
Well, to be fair, my family dynamic has changed considerably. So I'm actually I'm not really in that position where I have huge family meals anymore. Um, I didn't have a really great relationship with my father over the years. He passed away a few years ago, but we didn't have a
Mm.
relationship long before that. So really, it's just me and my mom. I don't have a relationship with my brother right now because in going through this whole journey, I've learned boundaries and I have expectations on being treated the way that I deserve.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, he's one that can't follow that. So I have a very small family dynamic. My family and friends who are my family
Right.
are so incredibly supportive. Um, and it took me a little while to be comfortable with, either bringing my own snacks, my own protein snacks, my own meal, or being comfortable with having like a bite of something if I'm at somebody's house. And it wasn't that I was worried that, oh my God, I can only eat. It was, I don't want to offend them, like growing up,
Right.
So I did have to deal with that, but because my support system is so great, they right from the get-go, they made it very comfortable for me that I was okay with doing what I had to do.
Right. And I do love that, and that was one thing that I was grateful for, is both because my family's Italian, Eric's family's Mexican. It's just food.
Yeah.
And what I was very appreciative is, even in his family was the same way, where like if you didn't eat the food is because there's something wrong with them or whatever. But I love that they were, at least they understood. They might not have understood why I was only eating 3 bites. They seemed that was excessively small, but
Mhm.
they learned to not push it. And so that did make me appreciative. Um, Obviously, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm curious to know for you personally, because I tell people the first year is the honeymoon phase, where you're getting NSVs and the weight is coming off and it's finally working and you're feeling good. But I feel like something shifts in year 2, and that's usually more of the self reflection. It's realizing your environment and the people that you've been surrounding yourself with for a long time. And year 2 for me was a lot of I feel like hard decisions in relationships and sometimes severing ties and pulling away from people that you were probably even going to be judged harshly for making those
Mhm.
decisions, but you had to learn your own boundaries. And I think that people struggle greatly in that phase because they don't know how to do it. Or, you know, Italians, Catholic, Jewish, like we have the guilt that is instilled, it's in our
Yeah.
bloodline. You know, I'm just curious for you personally, what gave you the courage to put yourself first and remove toxic elements from your life?
That's a really good question.
I'm full of
Um,
really good questions.
you're good. I got to a point where like the people pleaser, the yes woman in
Hmm.
me was done. I was like, I finally realized, nobody is stepping up and being a people pleaser for me.
Hmm.
Why do I feel like I have to do that for everybody else? So in speaking of family, like with my brother, he's 4 years younger. I will always love him. But sometimes how he speaks to me, his expectations on, what I do is never enough. I would
Hmm.
always do more. But it got to a point late last year where I'm like, I'm done. If you ever speak to me the way that you just spoke to me, I'm done. It happened again, and I said, I'm done. I walked. And when I say that, yes, I miss him, but my happiness is more important to me. And I no longer feel that's selfish.
Right.
If somebody thinks that's selfish, okay. But I no longer have that dread of, oh my God, what I say and do, how is he going to turn that against me? So
Right.
I have these boundaries set on people that are in my life. I only want you there if you want to be there, but I deserve to be treated a certain way. I've worked hard to get to this spot, and if you can't respect that or me, I can't have you in my space anymore.
So, somebody watching this or listening to this right now who's going through something similar and they're like, holy fuck, I can't do what Missy just did. Like, oh my God, how did she? What finally gave you the confidence, or what was your breaking point to finally be like, no, you are going to respect me moving forward? Like, this is not how it's going to be anymore.
I think when I first stood up for myself, because I had done that before, but a few weeks or whatever, I would always go back and be like, okay, let's talk, let's fix it. Not that we would really talk. It was always, you don't really talk about stuff.
No, you
You just
sweep it under the rug.
put it under the rug
Yeah.
and you move on until the
Yeah.
next fight, and then all of that is rehashed again. I think what was the turning point for me was having that weight taken off my shoulders of not feeling that dread of, okay, what am I going to do wrong for them
Mhm.
today? I don't have that anymore. And I feel, I think in this journey, with the confidence that I have gained, and I feel like I'm meeting, I know it might seem cliche, but I'm meeting me for the first time. The woman that I am, I'm 45. I don't know what it's like to feel this good.
Mhm.
Like I haven't felt this good since my 20s. So I'm relearning so much stuff, and I am comfortable with um demanding respect. And if I
Yeah.
can't get that from people who are supposed to love me, see ya.
See, and I love that. And I hope that somebody watching this down the road can understand that if you're in toxic relationships, even if it's emotionally or whatever, you can break away from it. You have the power to overcome it. And I think for me personally, I was the people pleaser and I was always the first to, you're either the first to apologize or you just suck up and do what they want because it's because
Yeah.
you're the dick if you don't do it. And I don't something. And I told you it's always in year two. And well, I don't know if it's always. I tell people it's often in year two.
Mhm.
Something just shifts inside of you, and I came to this realization that I've done everything that was asked of me, but you're still treating me like crap. So
Yeah.
even if I'm doing everything right in your eyes and you're still treating me like crap, I have zero control over what your opinion is of me.
Yeah.
I cannot change your mind. So if I can't change your mind, why am I bending over backwards trying to
Exactly.
get you to maybe this time it's going to be different? And I
Yeah.
finally started saying no, and it sucked. and I would cry about it because I
Mhm.
felt so guilty for telling anybody no. And then then like the garbage was even
Yes.
piled on even more. And you're like, okay, but that attitude would have been towards me even if I did what was asked of me. So I would, if
It's
you're going to
never
treat me the
enough.
same way regardless, I might as well like enjoy my afternoon and do what I want to do this afternoon, you know? And once you do it the first time, I feel like that weight is so lifted. I feel like it
Yeah.
gets a little easier, and then it
Yeah,
gets a little
100%.
easier.
It's liberating, and you're like,
Yes.
yes, like and again, I don't feel like I'm being selfish. 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, I am the biggest bitch.
Yes.
And now it's like, I'm not. I love me. So
Mhm.
as much as whether it's family or friends, as much as I love them, and part of me would miss that relationship. I love me more now, and
Mhm.
that's what has to be more important.
Did you ever think that you were going to feel better in your 40s than you did in your 30s?
Never,
I did not.
never. No.
I had like a midlife crisis at 30. Like at the idea of turning 30, I freaked the fuck out. And then all of a sudden, like, when I turned 40 a year and a half, I don't know, 2 years ago, whatever, I celebrated it. I was excited. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's fucking go. And I never thought, because I joked at 30, I said, just wait 10 years. It's gonna be terrible. If I'm shitting myself right now at 30, like you guys
Mhm.
better watch out because 40 is gonna be fucking terrible. And no, I
Well, when I turned 40, I was at my heaviest. I was just getting to that point where even just walking 5 steps was a challenge. And I was like, is this what I have to look forward to?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's ask a question. What are we gonna look forward to this year?
This year, well, more dancing. I
Yes.
am the spring session of the dance company I dance with. We're doing like foundation classes, so I am improving my skills. So come the fall, I will be upgrading to a higher level dance class, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
And my something new this year is I've reached out to a local derby league, and I want to learn how to roller skate
Shut
and
up.
possibly join the derby league.
Those things still exist?
Yes, like
That is amazing.
I remember being young watching like the shows on TV
The
with like
the
these like
roller derby.
badass, yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And I saw on Facebook there was a local like in my city. They have a league here. So I reached out and she sent me a bunch of information. So I'm just waiting for them to release their dates for their like training and like
Mhm.
how to, and then I'm gonna do that.
I knew that. Let me tell you something. When I did the that 75 hard last year and I completed it and I was like, "Oh my god, I thought I can accomplish anything." I was like signing up for shit left and right. I told Eric, "I'm going to join a mariachi." They were going to have classes in like September of last year and I'm like, I'm gonna join it because I saw a mariachi band. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and I thought the gowns were like beautiful and gorgeous, and the music was awesome. And I'm like, I'm gonna do that. And he goes, "The fuck is wrong with you? Like you don't have to do." He's like, I think he was also worried that I was gonna desecrate his heritage, and I'm like, no, like I want to learn about it. Like there was something so
Yeah.
beautiful about it. And he goes, Sherry, you don't have to do everything that there is to do. And I'm like, but like that's when I threw my back out and so I'm not doing it. But you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a mariachi class or whatever at some point this year. The roller derby sounds like a lot of fun though.
You know what? And it's something like when I told some friends that I wanted to do it, they're like, "What is wrong with you? Like, do like a 5K. What do you need to learn how to roller derby for?" And I'm like,
Why not?
I I didn't think I would be able I didn't think I would ever be able to do it. Like even
Yeah.
entertain the thought of, and what I just said the other day, I forget who it was. Like for my dancing, I would have never thought I would be able to sit in the audience to watch this dance show,
Mm-hmm.
let alone be on that stage. So because I can do it now, I just want to try. And
Yes.
I may not be like, maybe I'm going to be an awful roller skater and I can't do it, but I want to try. And
Wait,
because
Michelle's
I'm
done roller
capable.
derby. I want to try. I'm okay, and I don't want to project my issues onto other people. I would. steer clear of pole dancing classes because that's what hurt me last year. But even though I hurt myself greatly doing that, I would still do it all over again.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I never thought that I could ever visualize myself doing. And I also think it was a sign to my body that I had to be, I don't know, maybe I had to be humbled a little bit and like go back to my roots. And because I'm strengthening specific muscles at a time, whereas before I was kind of going at it blind. So I do believe that everything's in a reason. But if you have a roller derby meet of some kind and the next dance performance, if it's in the spring, I can't guarantee anything. I would love to see you live and doing that.
You know, there's no show for the spring session. There is one in the fall. So the next show that I'm on stage for will be in November.
Really? All right.
Yeah, end of November.
To the Canadian people watching, prep a couch ready because I'm going to come and stay with you in November. Did you know that it's been almost an hour already?
Stop it. We haven't even covered everything.
I told you we're not going to cover shit. We're just going to have you come back because we have like a whole topic planned too. But we touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious. So somebody's watching this right now. And they're like, God, Misty was amazing. I'm thinking of having the surgery. I'm still a little on the fence though, but she kind of helped me a little bit. What advice do you have to give to somebody who is about to start their journey into the bariatric world?
Like if they're deciding if they want to have surgery?
Yeah, like they're kind of on the fence about it, or maybe they just signed up for it and they're getting kind of nervous leading up to it.
For me, I'm a list person. I need like pen and paper. I need to have a list. So I did pros and cons. And yeah, so and I would say when you're mentally ready, that pro list for getting surgery is going to be a hell of a lot longer than the con list. Before years ago, my con list was long.
Right.
Now my pro list covered a lot of things. There was a few things on the con list because I mean, being that overweight, surgery, I mean, nothing is like it's concerning.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. I mean, being that heavy going in the operating room is scary. But the pros definitely outweighed the cons. And like I said before, if I didn't do that surgery, I knew I wouldn't have seen 50. So I just had to decide what was more important.
I love that. I'm just curious, is there anything in the last 2 years that has surprised you about yourself during this journey?
So much.
Really?
I've never felt the confidence that I feel in me. And like we talked about before, even though I struggle with, what I see in the mirror, I still feel this inner strength and confidence that I have never felt before. I've always been an advocate for women, but now I feel like I am in a place of comfort that I can use my voice for people who haven't found their voice yet. And that's something else I am so grateful for, that because of the confidence I feel, I can stand up for people who can't quite do that themselves yet.
I love that so much. I'm bummed that we didn't get to everything because I was just like engrossed in you. I wasn't really paying attention to the time, and I just noticed it right now. And I'm like, oh shit. So we're going to have a part 2 with Misty. We will schedule it. Awesome. Before we go today, is there anything that you would like to leave us off with? Any words of wisdom or tidbits or stories or whatever?
First, I just want to say, like, I haven't been able to see all of the comments, but I keep seeing them filtering in. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's kind of joined in. And the support is so overwhelming. And I truly feel love. And like, we've all met, most of us from social media. And the love and acceptance I have felt really, my cup is overflowing. So I'm so grateful for that. And I just want to thank you for having this, that I can share my story. Like we talked about before, to have conversations like this, it's so important, because even though we're on the similar journeys. We're all so different,
Yeah.
but we all just want to know that we matter and we belong, and that's what these conversations are doing. So
Well, thank you so much for saying that. And I love being able to give people, okay, here's the thing. People don't want to hear me talk every single week by myself for an hour. It gets old very, very quickly. I love, and I don't want to talk about myself anyway, but I love hearing everyone else's stories because I learn something from every single person that I can selfishly apply to my own cup to
Mhm.
make me a better person. So thank
Yeah.
you for, being on here and sharing your story and everything. Um, if anybody has other questions for Misty when we have her come back on the show, you can always email me at info@sherryarcuria.com. If you ever want to be a guest on the show, or if you know somebody who has had bariatric surgery and would like to share their story, reach out to me as well. If you want to follow Misty on TikTok, what's your TikTok handle?
Misty_Dawn1.
There you go. So you can find her on TikTok, give her a follow. She has amazing content. And you are going to come back, right?
Oh my God, 110%. Yes.
Okay, good answer. And on that note, I hope all of you guys have an absolutely amazing rest of your week. And we will see